Oh, and hey guys, welcome back. I am here with Bruce and Steven. We're going to be doing a little bit of an interview here. So, real fast, can you guys introduce yourselves?
Bruce, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bruce, otherwise known as Gambit, and I'm a sort of relatively new community manager for the Elite team. I've been here, I think, about 7 weeks now.
Yeah, and I'm Stephen Benedetti. I'm one of the community managers here on the Elite team also, and I've been here for about 9 months now. That's crazy.
Been here
So
forever.
I've been here forever. It feels like a lovely forever I've been here for. But yeah, I've been here for a wee bit of time.
Awesome. Real quick, people are saying that you're quiet, so I'm going to try turning you guys up just a little bit there.
Okey-dokey.
All right. So, with that, I did have the pleasure. I was able to meet you, Steven, back last year at Fantasticon. I have yet to meet with you, Bruce, to ever meet with you in person. Sadly, with all the stuff going on right now, plan was to kind of meet up with some of the newer community managers at the Elite meet, but that was canceled because of all the stuff going on right now, right? One of the questions I kind of wanted to...
Hopefully we'll get an opportunity.
Oh yeah,
maybe next year.
One of the things I kind of wanted to start off with is that with all the stuff, this virus stuff going on right now, for you guys, I mean, you all, Frontier overall are pretty much all working from home right now, right?
Yeah, basically everybody, but I think security is working at home because we've tried to make sure that obviously with a company with 500 employees, it's very important to try and make sure that the distance is kept in place. So we have the team has been phenomenal. The team, tech team, and everybody else has been amazing to try and set up that everybody's been able and has the ability to work at home.
Yeah, really impressive. I was really sort of blown away by how quickly we were able to switch to working from home as well. Obviously, they started with our team because sort of the nature of our job allows us to work remotely quite easily. So we were sort of the trial, but by the end of the same week, like almost all of the staff were working remotely. So that was pretty amazing.
Okay. So years ago, I know there was, and yeah, thank you very much, Dietrich. I will be asking that one next. Years ago, we were told that Frontier has lore in books about the Thargoids and all that kind of stuff, and there's rumors of this Thargoid lore book at Frontier. Is that one of those things that possibly might have been taken home for safekeeping during all this stuff?
Oh yeah, you definitely can't ransack the place. Oh, everything's secure is in DB's personal vault, and I believe that he has a gun of some point on top of it. It's not loaded; it's just there to deter.
Right. Nice. Okay, so let's see. So some of the questions I wanted to ask here. I know one of the big. Oh, great! I've got a guy chasing me in the game now. Great. No, I've got one of the big kind of things being asked, and again, I understand this might not be something that you guys will be able to answer right now, but a lot of people are concerned about the fleet carrier upkeep cost and everything like that. I know that during betas, I've talked to developers in the past where they've discussed how during the betas there's a lot more telemetry stuff running in the beta program to gather data and stuff like that. Is that the kind of information that's looked at from the beta going into the live game to try to balance what people are actually going to be doing with some of the costs for things?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what we've got 2 betas coming, and the reason we're doing these 2 betas isn't just to give everybody a nice first look at what's going on with fleet carriers. It's we wanted to put these in a kind of live environment to see how people would use them, to see what the figures and numbers, kind of how they work together, how they work, because the amazing thing about this community is they take something that we produce in the game, and they've always done amazing and wonderful things. Just saying, throwing an SRV off of a planet to another one, Malik.
I don't know what you're
Doing
talking
things like
about.
that. just using gravitation to fire yourself to another planet. I've heard rumors. So that's what and I think it's really important, and it's one thing that we really want players to know especially is that these betas, this feedback, everything that we're doing, we're taking on this feedback. It's getting back with the developers, the numbers, like the upkeep costs, the concern over it. That's getting passed on to the development team, and the development team are really open to try and discuss and make adaptations and make sure that it works at the best way it can.
Right now, it's kind of like a coming up on that. That's still based on the same question, but someone in chat asked, is like, are a lot of the rebuy, or not rebuy costs, the weekly upkeep costs, is that almost, or was it possibly maybe based off of when the fleet carriers were supposed to be a squadron only thing, and it's kind of might need to be rebalanced for single player use if for people that are doing that?
Bruce, are you happy for me to go for this one, or do you want to answer?
Feel free, mate. That's fine.
Yeah. So obviously, all the numbers that we use. So obviously, fleet carriers are a high cost asset in the game. It's something. It's a tool that people want to use who have got the credits and have got the experience, because, like we've said, they're persistent. They are in the galaxy. We want to make sure that they're run correctly, and you need that experience and the funds to do so. So when we were looking at the upkeep costs and they were introduced, we obviously looked through data online and tried to see what was manageable and what was slightly not manageable. And this included obviously the developers making the decision, let's put these numbers in, see how they react to these, and then that gives us scope to either reduce or increase depending on obviously the reaction. And that's kind of what the things that's quite important to look at, is to see, well, it's quite high at the moment. We can see that it's quite high as something that we're considering looking at, to possibly reduce, to change, to make sure that it fits with how people play with the fleet carriers. So again, it's through design. These guys have obviously looked through all the numbers, they've looked through the costs and people's usage in the game, and they've tried to reflect that the best that they can.
Okay, awesome. Now, I do see one question that's being repeated a few times here. Is there possibly any plans in the future to possibly introduce like a mid-range fleet carrier, like a smaller one for people that are not wanting to run like as much stuff as the bigger ones, and not the capacities, but something that, just for people that don't make as much money as the fleet carrier? I mean, is that something that's maybe possibly be planned, or something that can be talked with the other developers to see if that's maybe a thing that they want to add?
Bruce, are you wanting to go for this?
So, sure. So there's no plan for that at the minute. That's not to say it's completely off the table in the future, but at the moment it's just the main big fleet carriers. So yeah, that's where we're at. I don't know how the devs would feel about that one. We can ask them.
Right.
I suspect with fleet carriers being designed as like the big end game like trophy in a lot of ways, we wouldn't really want to undermine that. Is my sort of gut by adding is my gut feeling by adding a sort of smaller version.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that's not to say that we don't go in that direction at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, the when you go around to all the different areas where the fleet carriers are able to be purchased, there's a lot of shipyards that have like different variations of the fleet carriers out in front of it. Is that going to give us kind of like an idea of what kind of livery options we might be getting in the future for them? Because there's several of them that have like different front ends and engine clusters and colors and engine tints and all that kind of stuff. Is that something that we might be seeing in when the thing goes actually live?
Yeah, so in the beta process, we obviously don't have any links to the livery options. We kind of want to make sure that people focus on the gameplay and using in the fleet carrier, and we don't link it to the store and trying to promote it, because I mean that's just quite a difficult process. We try and focus purely on what you can get in game the first time. So all these different options on it, the fleet carrier will be customized. Like you can customize similar to the way you customize a ship, by different paint jobs, layouts, changing the engine colors, just like you do on a ship.
Okay. So other question.
Just if I can
go ahead.
butt in, sorry. Looking at a comment, I think it's from Kenneth McGrew there in your chat. I wanted to clarify something I said about, so I said that we're not going to introduce smaller fleet carrier, or smaller versions at least, there's no plans to at the minute. That's not this whole update isn't designed to disparage people who can't afford it. Fleet carriers are also for people who can't own them or don't have enough credits yet to own them. The whole point of fleet carriers is to encourage player interaction, to gather up, teammates or your squadron mates and go on exploration trips together or mining or whatever. It's a very collaborative piece of content. Just because you can't own one or afford one just yet doesn't mean you're not meant to interact with the content at all.
Yeah, exactly. We want people to. We've said that so many times as well, and it's really important to nail home is that these are just as important for visitors. If you can't afford one, you can still you can still use one. You can still go on and still access the really cool and interesting things that fleet carriers have to offer.
Awesome. So other kind of question. This is starting to get into like more technical stuff. There was a little bit of a surprise when people discovered that, for example, the CQC matchmaking was in the beta. That was never in like patch notes or anything like that. I mean that was like a little bit of a surprise, right?
Yes, it was.
I mean,
was, to be.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
To be completely frank, that was as much of a surprise for us as it was for you guys. A very nice one.
I wrote them, and they were a surprise to me.
Okay, it's just I've been involved in Elite Dangerous since 2014, back when it was in beta before it was actually released, and I've always seen during betas, during patch notes and everything like that, there's always things missing that come as a surprise to the community and stuff like that. So that one was one of those things that was just like, whoa, where did this come from? Like people were
sure.
Like when people are like, hey, check your window and there's a CQC. I'm like, no, there's not. And then it's like, wait, what? And then and I mean, it worked just fine and was able to queue up and everything. It just surprised me. Now you got things like that, but then there's also things like, for example, bookmarks and ship icons. They've been recolored. Has there been like an explanation on why that's done? I mean, is there? I mean, like I'm not sure why suddenly we went from blue to orange. And is there something planned for bookmarks or something expanding on that system?
So, Bruce, do you want me to take this one or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when it comes to obviously some of the different UI changes and different things, we promised obviously at the start of the year that we would be making some change before previously we came up with the January update. We said that we were going to try and make some improvements and some changes. So obviously when it comes to improvements and changes, it's not just bug fixes. We also try and review what's currently there. We were already adding in the icons for obviously adding the fleet carriers in, so it was just a review and a design, because it's really important that Elite Dangerous is a continuing game. It's an MMO. We want to continue and make changes and adapt and try and make things better as we go on. And this is just one of the things that kind of got added to the list. Of some people's like, let's change this up, let's add this in, this could look nicer, be better represented through this way. And if it all works together, we're always happy to try and if it doesn't break everything, we always try and add some stuff in if we can.
Okay. Now, the reason why I wanted to kind of ask that question was, I know, for example, I know personally of several players of the game that have different stages of color blindness, for example. One kind of complaint that I have heard from them is, for example, the bookmark orange color and the fleet carrier orange color. They're both orange, but they're slightly different tints. One is lighter than the other one. Apparently, things like that kind of blend together a little bit. So I don't know if it might be one of those design considerations to possibly run some of these things through those color blindness filters to try to see if things like that. It's an accessibility.
It's accessibility. Yeah, and we want Elite Dangerous to be accessible to as many people as we can. And I can't speak personally for the designers, but I do know that and for the people that put it all together, like the artists and UI artists, these decisions are obviously made as a team, and there's a lot of reasons behind it, and that could possibly be one of the reasons why they tried to change it and adapt it, because again, they do listen to the feedback, and they are really, really talented, and I'm sure that accessibility is one thing that's definitely on their their, not say peripherals, but I want to say on their thought process when designing these things and implementing them.
Right. So kind of going on, continuing on with that, this is another kind of a complaint that I've heard a lot. Right now, for a lot of people, they feel that to get a fleet carrier, the quickest way to do it right now is a lot of mining. Mining seems to be the quickest way to make the money, to build the money, to get the thing. Has there been any discussion on rebalancing some of the other gameplay loops like combat and trade and stuff like that to allow people to not have to do only mining all the time, so because right now, like, you can sit there and go do like focus on combat stuff, even pick up a bunch of missions to do this stuff. You're still making 5 to 10% of what you would do if you were just doing mining, so I know a lot of people that they don't like to be forced to have to do the one kind of gameplay loop to build the money. They want to kind of be able to jump around and do some other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the main visions of the game, is that you can take any of these career paths and make, obviously each one's going to scale perhaps differently, but at the end, the ability to make a decent amount of money should be more or less equal in each, right? I think this is a much bigger issue that fleet carriers has highlighted rather than being an issue specific to fleet carriers. And it is something we've discussed and realized. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a focus going forward. But at the moment, we haven't got plans that we're able to share in terms of rebalancing. But this has definitely put it more on the radar.
Okay. Now, kind of also continuing on with things that people are wondering why they're not being used. The rumor system. Like, we've had the new exploration mechanics in since the 3.3 update, but nothing has ever been used for the rumor system. Is there any plans on possibly expanding that into? I'm going to actually pull this up on stream so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But when it comes to discoveries, we've got all the, we've got a lot of, things people found, things that you have found yourself, but nothing yet has ever used the rumor system. And I know for a lot of people that like to do the deep space exploration, they, kind of been looking forward to seeing a rumor pop up to try and be the first to try to find it, right?
Yeah. So the question is that what are we doing with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, is there any plans on actually taking advantage of that? Because since it's been in, we've never seen a rumor.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that I'm actually not totally clued up on with the development team, but I do assume that obviously with it being implemented, it is something that we've planned to use. If it's not been currently used yet, there'll be a reason behind it. It could be that we've not used it yet because it's not been at a position to be used in the way that we want it to be used. So it doesn't function exactly the way that we wanted to use, or there's been a better way to do it, so we've used that as an alternative.
Okay.
So if it's not been used yet, I do know it's in the game. There'll be a reason behind it, and it's one of those things that we'll definitely pass on to the development team and see the reason behind it.
Okay, awesome. Now, this is another thing that has kind of vanished from the game, but stuff like community goals, things like Galnet and stuff like that. There was a post in the forums a while back where it was discussed that a lot of the writers that did the stuff for the Galnet stories and the community goals, they were retasked for doing story content for the upcoming December 2020 update, from what I understand. I know you guys can't really talk about that, but I think what a lot of people are more worried about is that will stuff like community goals and the Galnet, will it make a return in the future?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I get this a lot. We said on our post that we've got no plans of doing them at the moment, but this may change. So a lot of community, so a lot of people think that community goals are really simple and straightforward to do, but like Elite Dangerous, it's not as straightforward as just saying like, here, go do something, go check it out. It's the same with interstellar initiatives. I think a few of them weren't received as well as we'd kind of hoped, and some of them were received very well, like the Golconda was received very well, the one that you found, which was amazing. You know, that was really well received. But some of them people felt left out. So some different kind of player base felt a wee bit left out of things to do in there. So it's really important when we are making any kind of community goal or interstellar initiative that it's actually a longer process than people may think. It takes a lot more time for the design team and the development team to make sure that when they implement something, it's implemented well. And again, this then takes up the writing team's time, which then we want to make sure that it matches all the lore, matches with the narrative, the current narrative that we're in at the moment, and that it's a fun experience. That's the main kind of focus. So right now, community goals and interstellar initiatives and the the Garnet articles are still there. They're just focusing on things that happen in game, and obviously at the moment there isn't the community goals and interstellar initiatives to fill that content. So the Galnet's still there. We still want to in the future bring back community goals if it's something that the community really want, but just currently right now our shift focus is more on this big update, which is the fleet carriers, which is taking a lot of work with the two betas and getting all the feedback, and everybody's really enjoying themselves and really interested in what's going on. But we are focusing on that and then onto the new era. And that doesn't mean that community goals will never come back or interstellar initiatives won't come back. And the Galnet's still there, but it just means right now our focus is on that, and we want to make sure that we have scope to do them again in the future.
Right, right. Now, for you guys, I mean, this is more of a curiosity question. Again, I understand if you're not able to actually answer this kind of stuff, but during this development phase, are you guys able to like see the new features like right as they come out, so you guys can start tailoring content and how to show the community how this stuff works like immediately, or like, I mean, as community manager, like how involved are you in like the design decisions themselves?
Bruce, you want to have a start this one, or would you like me to?
Well, I can say what my experience has been, but obviously having been around a bit longer, maybe you can give some more insights. So even in the last month and a half or so, the devs have been in touch with me and the rest of the CM team a lot, talking about how the feedback has been received and seeing how we can adjust the design to keep you guys happy and also to make sure that it's going to achieve the intended effect. So my understanding is that the relationship we have with Dev is pretty close, and they do definitely listen to what you guys have to say. Even over the weekend, they've been reading all of the feedback, so we didn't even have to relay much to them, which they didn't already know, honestly. So my understanding is that, the relationship is pretty good from a design point of view. But like I say, perhaps going a bit further back, maybe Stephen would be able to say what it was like earlier on.
Well, yeah. I'm a designer's worst nightmare. They get like every time. It's like, you know, when you walk into a room and it's just like you see somebody's face drop, they're like, oh no, he's coming to ask me more questions. And I'm like, yep. So back obviously throughout the time, so I've been here, obviously Fleet Guys were a wee bit before. We get kind of first looks at features when they're not necessarily content complete. We know the roadmap, we know what we're trying to produce and publish, and sometimes obviously with a feature not being fully fitted, so like a tool that designers use is called grey boxing. When they design a level, they'll just put grey boxes in and use that as functions rather than kind of put nice shiny models
like a
in.
placeholder kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And what that does is that basically just helps them work on all the physics, the science, the functionality, and the design around it. And what we get to do is we don't necessarily see that side of it on a day-to-day basis, but we'll get updates when there is any kind of further development. They kind of do like a scrum after a set of time. Once they'll do like a feature complete, they'll then have a look and we'll have a look at it, and then that's when we start asking the questions. Once the feature is more to complete, we start going, okay, well, what about this, what about that, how does that relate to this? And it's more of a kind of back and forth. We don't necessarily tell them how to design it. We say, oh, that's really good and the community will love this aspect. And from the kind of starting point, it's been really good because with Fleet Carriers, obviously, it's got a history to it, and we get to see the community's desire for it and what it wants, and we get to kind of discuss that with them. So they're very, very open, which isn't the same for every studio, which is very important to say. A lot of studios don't actually do that process and give as much freedom to for us kind of gelling together.
Right. Now, when it comes for feedback stuff, I know that the forums would probably be the primary place that you guys are looking for feedback, but like you as community managers, you're monitoring like everything. You're monitoring like Twitter and Reddit and everything, right?
Right.
Yeah, we so obviously there's now 3 of us, but the main focus is to make sure that we monitor forums, Reddit, Steam, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as close as we can. And we know that some of our players use some platforms and some don't, so we want to make sure that they can obviously get all that information, and even the newsletter as well. So we monitor all this. It's easier for us to get feedback in the forums because we have the beta instructions there, but we still go through all of our social channels and make sure that we try to collate all of that information to feedback to the dev team.
Right. Now, I remember seeing something like this in a previous beta, but do you think it might be a little bit easier for people to know what they're going to be testing during the beta if we maybe get like a message on the launcher, or not, well, maybe not the launcher, like an actual message in the game, so people kind of have an idea of what you guys want us to kind of really stress test? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know it's been done in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one way to go about it. On the other hand, I think there are some benefits to not giving too much direction.
Right.
Because that way you get a more realistic test of what people actually do when you put this new toy in their hands, right? Given enough people join the beta, which they have in this case, there's going to be people trying pretty much everything anyway, so we get a nice rounded, holistic view of how it all works. But I think if we were looking for, say, in the second beta, there was a specific aspect of Fleet Carriers we wanted more data on or more testing of, we could probably ask for that.
Right. Now, with the beta too, or I should say the second beta, how did you all get the console manufacturers to allow you to do a beta? Because I know, like, traditionally, usually Sony and Microsoft are really not too keen in doing like betas like that. That kind of surprised me that you guys are actually getting that the console betas, and I'm hoping, is that going to possibly be a regular thing in the future now too because of that?
So one of the interesting things with betas is that we got a lot of people quite upset, I think, on the January beta because it was only for PC, and it was that we didn't consider or care about the console portion of our community, which is it's really untrue. PC is a lot easier because what you do is you put the beta together and you can basically release it. You put a build together, you can pop it out whenever you want. Obviously, when you're releasing a new update, it also has to go through like Steam and different platforms, but predominantly it's quite a quick process. PlayStation and Xbox have requirements. So, say if we wanted to release a beta or a build, we have to go through these requirements about a couple of weeks or months in advance, depending on Xbox and PlayStation's workloads and their demand for it. So, whenever we have an update or anything new, it's a longer process to get through Xbox and PlayStation, and they have a lot more stricter rules and regulations that we kind of have to follow. And obviously, if they find out an issue, we then need to go back, make a whole new build, send it off, and then the process doesn't go, all right, you were in the queue first. It actually can be a wee bit longer. Sometimes it can be pulled forward. It's not saying that there's any problems with Xbox or PlayStation's methods and how they do it. It's just their safety checks,
Right.
which are very necessary, obviously, for console, and to make sure that it works with the consoles perfectly, because they don't want to be releasing something that doesn't work. So we want to continue doing betas for console players because we know that there is a demand for it. We know that we have a great community both on PC and consoles, and we want to cater to them as much as possible. But sometimes it just takes a wee bit longer. Hence why PC beta was the first one that we got here. And we'll be able to now bring over beta 2. We've got a console on that as well.
Awesome. Let's see what else here. I'm trying to take a look at my notes here. Oh, just crashed to the ground.
When you're flying and you don't, I know it always scares me when you're flying and you just look around so callously. I know you're such a talented pilot, but I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that's why you might notice I'm not boosting, so I'm not like trying to focus and do all the crazy stuff. And yeah, there goes all the boops in my channel. Let's see here. So let's try to think what other big things I wanted to ask here, because I've completely lost track and I'm crashing into stuff now.
That's always the best way.
Yeah, oh god, I'm trying to think what it was called now. My mind has gone completely blank. Let's see here. I'm trying to go back here through chat and see if there's any questions that kind of stand out here. See, now, G. Bison, the question that you asked, future crossplay, I don't think that's ever going to be a thing that we're not going to really be able to, like, I think I can answer that. I don't think they can even respond to that until get it confirmed on their side, personally. I don't think that's...
exactly, 100%. The interesting thing with fleet carriers is, though, is that because they're persistent in the galaxy, you will be able to see them on PlayStation, just the same way that you would see. So if a PC person is there, it's because it's persistent in the galaxy, a person in the PlayStation will be able to see it. So it's not really cross-play, but it's because they actually become part of the galaxy, just like you would a station. Everybody can see the same station.
Right.
And
Now,
interact with the same station.
now, with that too, I mean, when you say the kind of universe crossplay, if a PC player or an Xbox commander gets a fleet carrier, it'll show up crossplay that way, right? Like an Xbox commander's fleet carrier will still show up on, say, the PlayStation.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. So you'll still have it's like, again, a really good way of explaining it is just like a station. If you go to Hutton Orbital, it's the same place and it's the same time as in PC, PlayStation and Xbox. So it's similar with fleet carriers because they're persistent in the game. That's why they're so important, and they're so, like, this is why, like, these things are massive. These things are so huge that they are there in all of it. So you can jump on somebody's fleet carrier who's making a jump from Xbox and they're jumping from one place to another. You can jump on and share the ride with them.
Okay.
Which includes them appearing on the galaxy map as well.
Right. Yeah. Now, that's another thing that I think a lot of people have been kind of concerned about is there is a mechanic where, let's see if I can open this thing up and actually show it here on stream. There is a mechanic where you can use services and you can find, like, for example, carrier administration. So you can find where they sell the stuff for the fleet carriers. One of the interesting things that some people notice is that when you're actually landed at a station, there's actually 2 more drop downs on the main game that allow you to buy cartographic information and trade information. But on the beta, there's a 3rd one that gets added that shows all the fleet carriers, right? Has there been any consideration on making that so it's not only a thing that shows up only when you're landed at stations? Because if you got people that are going to be out with the fleet carriers and, doing all the flying around stuff, and they have no way to use the map to find the fleet carriers, how is that going to... I mean, no one can use it if people have fleet carriers out in the black and no one's able to actually use that drop down. Because that drop down's only tied to being landed at a station, like a pad.
So this is one of the things. I believe this is possibly, and don't quote me, I think this is a bug. I think you're supposed to be, so you're supposed to be able to see fleet carriers not only when you're at stations. You should also be able to go into your menu if you're flying about and find the fleet carrier service menu just like you would anything else.
Right.
So if it's not bugged already, I'll need to double check with that one, but I do believe that it's a bug.
Okay.
Yep.
And
yeah, that'll definitely make it a lot easier to find where fleet carriers are located, for sure. Now, not only finding the fleet carriers on the galaxy map, the other concern is too many fleet carriers. Because right now, when you're using the navigation panel, and if you're in one of the systems that has all the fleet carriers in it, fleet carriers show up like a station, right? And when there's 11 fleet carriers in one system, the navigation panel can sometimes be a little bit chaotic. Is there possibly any kind of like feedback going to the developers and making a new filter to filter those out independently? Because right now, like that one system, the day that this released, oh my god, it was chaotic trying to find like a single fleet carrier.
Yeah, especially because what fleet carriers do is, because they orbit a body, and obviously there can be several in a body, but if they run out, they just get pushed further and further back into a system until they can be there.
Right.
So with that, I don't know that we have any information on that, but that's great feedback. It's
Okay.
something that's definitely possibly, like, because this is what's really fun about a beta, is that the team design these. We come up with what we believe would be good feedback and good understanding, obviously through our community perspective. But then when we give it to people, they come up with um, issues and solutions and ideas before we've even thought about it, because we've been looking at it for such a long time.
Right.
So obviously I was very lucky. I was in hands-on in the previous builds before the final builds to try and get some shots like everybody saw for the video, the pre-recorded stream. So there wasn't as many fleet carriers where I was, because there was the QA department and me and some devs that had one. But obviously having everybody who's been able to get one and put them in, it's something that we couldn't really see coming. That we've not tested yet. So if it is feedback, then please let us know. Love to
Okay.
pass that on.
Now this one I am going to have to actually. Oh, and I just smashed my head up against my microphone. Sorry. This next part I'm actually going to have to use a voice attack command real quick to show something on stream. But yeah, I'll be able to ask you the question here in a moment. Open Oculus window. Okay, so the question that I'm going to ask here is, like, in one of the updates, I believe it was the 3.3 update, we actually got this kind of updated navigation panel where the locations and all that kind of stuff was like redone. For example, the landable planet icon was kind of redone and everything like that. I had done like a kind of like an idea thing, a suggestion thing, like way before 3.3, that kind of this kind of looks like it was stepping towards that kind of thing. But is there possibly any way that things like the underneath the location icon would be able to be expanded to show more information? Like, for example, if there's like many fleet carriers, it would be nice to be able to see the icons on the side to know what kind of facilities that they had, or if the station was there, if the station had refueling, repair, or something like that. If planets, if it has geological, biological, Thargoid, human, whatever, I mean, this was definitely a step in that direction, but things like that because like right now we have to go into the thing, we have to like expand it and open up an totally another window instead of being able to just kind of glance at it and be able to tell exactly what is there. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a great idea. It's something that we'd have to put for ask the development team, get some feedback on from that. But it is a really good idea. I quite like that. It's something that would be really cool to be added in.
Okay. 1 second, I got to do another voice stack command. Close Oculus window. Sorry, I had to get rid of everything now. Now, the thing is too is like another big concern that I've seen a lot of people asking about is the way that the beta is running right now. Fleet carriers don't seem to allow for the gameplay loop for explorers. Like there's no
Right.
there's no way to, there's no universal cartographics or anything like that. I know on my stream last week we did kind of come up with just ideas of pros and cons for ways that a universal cartographics could be added, because the big thing with a lot of people with universal cartographics is that if you're out in the black and you're trying to find something, having your name on it is like the big thing. You want to have your name on it first, and having a fleet carrier out in the black, if a universal cartographic was added, it would be unfair to, boom, you're out in the black and you've got a fleet carrier 20 light years away that you can turn your data in. one of the kind of ideas that we came up, just kind of as a pro and con, is the fleet carrier, any data turned into it would have a time delay. So there would be the risk reward of if universal cartographics was added to a fleet carrier, things like the data would take time to get back and turned in, right? And that would give the whole pro and con for the people that go out into the black and then still return to the bubble to turn the data in and get their name on it immediately, versus because like right now, I don't think, from what I understand watching Dav's videos on like server stuff, things like universal cartographics, when you turn your data in, boom, it gets your name on it and it's there, it's done, like that's it, right?
Yeah.
Trying to add in a new system for a time delay for when information is turned in would be like, it would require like a complete revamp to the way the server stores that information, because then it would sit there and say, this person turned it in on the 1st of this month, but it takes a week to get back from wherever the fleet carrier is on the other side of the galaxy. You know, who knows? And like that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, it would be an interesting gameplay thing, but it's also kind of dependent on, do you want to retask someone to create this new code and all this stuff to make it do that kind of thing too, right?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot to say about universal cartographics. The first is it's probably the second biggest bit of feedback that we've received, accepting only the upkeep costs. There's no doubt that it would be a big thing for explorers and make fleet carriers like infinitely more useful to them. The question is, would it be too powerful if they just got universal cartographics just flat out with no kind of downside?
Right.
And I had heard the idea of players potentially either losing the ability to get their first dibs on a new discovery, or, like you mentioned, a kind of delay. The only thing for me about a delay is I don't think there are going to be many instances where someone using their fleet carrier discovers something, wants to put their name on it, initiates the delay phase, and in the same time someone else who discovers that is now racing back to the bubble to cash it in. It seems like that would happen so few times, or at all, like probably not at all.
Right. I mean, I have a feeling that kind of thing would be more during like the next Distant Worlds 3 or something like that, like the next big exhibition where you've got a whole bunch of commanders like racing to try to get stuff. That's where I would see that would be a bigger factor.
Yeah, sure. And I think on the other hand, removing the ability to get first dibs on something at all would be an over nerf. That's my personal opinion. In terms of the dev team, they've taken all of this feedback on and they're looking at alternate options for universal cartographics, obviously given that it was such a big thing. And like I say, one of the primary pieces of feedback we've received since, well, even since before the beta, actually, this was since the content reveal. And all I can say on that point is we've heard your guys' feedback, we're discussing solutions, and it's likely that you'll hear more about that in the announcement we post this week.
Okay, awesome. So what you're saying is that we should be expecting an announcement this week, right?
Yeah, so this week we're going to be announcing the discussions we've had and the first batch of feedback changes that are going to go into the beta.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Now, I know the current beta ends on the 20th, and the next beta starts sometime in May, correct? And I know that the exact date hasn't been...
May, I think.
Oh, 11th of May. Awesome. Okay,
around
so
that time. I think it's
around
early
that time.
to mid-May.
Okay, awesome. So another kind of... I know this is...
That's tentative.
Right, yeah, right. So it's not locked in, so around that time, though.
Yeah.
So everyone in chat, just be aware, if you're going to take time off to get into the second beta that day, I would highly recommend not to take the day off, but start planning for around that time to take vacation time, maybe. So another kind of question I wanted to ask, and this is it's partially related to the December 2020 update, but I know due to shareholder what do I want to call it? Shareholder reports that came out late last year. It was said that there's about 120 people working on Elite total at Frontier Developments. We know from Zach's post several years back that currently the entire Elite development team is pretty much split 75-25%. 75% working on the big December 2020 update, the remaining 25% working on the stuff that we've been getting the last few years. So roughly 90-30, right? Now, one of the big things that I try to stress on my stream is a lot of people sit there and they hear the word developer and they think that there's 30 programmers, right? There's not 30 programmers. There's artists, and even artists are broken down into like concept art and 3D modeler and texture and animators and all that kind of stuff. So there's many different people. That you don't have 30 people you give coffee and code flies out of their fingertips. It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah, you've got QA, you've got sound guys, graphics, yeah, all of that.
Right. I mean, there's a lot more people involved in a team. Now, going back to when Elite, I mean, this is way before you guys showed up as community managers at Frontier, but between when Frontier's Kickstarter happened and Elite being released in December of 2014, there was a 2-year period, right? And this update that we're going to be getting here at the end of this year is going to have 2.5 years of development on this update, right? Now, the original thing from 2012 to 2014, that was, they had to develop the entire game engine, they had to develop the flight model, they had to develop all the systems to make the game what we now play. With this December 2020 update, again, I know you guys can't talk about specifics and stuff like that, but I'm sure that you guys are seeing some of the stuff that's coming, right? For that part, right? Like you know some of the stuff that's coming. Kind of. I mean, I don't know. Can you add? I mean, you guys know what's coming in advance, right?
Yeah. So we
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we do.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I know there's going to be some questions that you guys cannot actually answer. Now, I was lucky enough. Again, this was before you guys got there, but you guys, not you specifically, but I was invited over to Frontier's headquarters back in 2017, at the time to be shown some of the at the 3.3 content then, right? Some of the stuff that we kind of saw while we were there. It's one of the reasons why I continue to play the game so much, is because I know some of the things that's coming, and it just always makes me excited. And like the annoying part for me is when I was over there in 2017, I knew about content for the 3.3 update a month in advance. And then for this fleet carrier update, I was given a packet about a week in advance to kind of get things ready for the day of release and all that kind of stuff. You all torture me. That's all I can say, is that you all torture me so much for me having to keep my mouth shut and not talk about some of the stuff that's coming. How do you guys deal with it? Like, if you know all this stuff, like I'm pretty sure you guys like want to like talk about this stuff like all the time. How do you just deal with that?
When we were first given the job, we're given a piece of secret, and you're meant to hold it for your 6-month probationary period, and if you don't tell anyone, you pass.
Okay.
So they make us back. No, I'm joking. Actually, we're one thing is for me is I kind of want it makes me feel excited to see what things are happening and what's going on and what's possible for the future, and it just makes me feel really. I don't want to tell it. Like, I don't want to tell anybody, because I want it to be, the way that I look at it is I want it to be told the right way to give it the best response that it should get, to
Right.
justify all the hard work that everybody's been put into it. And other than that, I just kind of talk to my pillow.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating when you know something that you want to tell players. So, for example, with the fleet carrier stuff, all the way leading up to the beta, just hearing players ask for information on it and news on it that we're just about ready to give, but can't quite just yet. It's the most annoying thing. But like Steven says, it's so worth it that when the time does come and you're ready to deliver it the right way, the payoff is good. So the flip side of that is delayed gratification, I guess.
Right. It's just
So it is with New Era.
Right. It's I just know like it was like frustrating because like myself personally, I was in the U.S. Air Force for a decade, and I knew secrets in that, but some of those secrets are kind of boring. It's I can't really talk about it because I have the whole threat with federal prison and all that stuff with those secrets. With Frontier secrets, because of just the interest in the game and being able to like know some of the stuff in advance, like the 3.3 update drove me insane. Because
we can stop telling you stuff if you want.
Oh, no, keep telling me, please keep telling me, because it like every time that like the stuff happens, like I get super excited for things, and then people see it on the stream and they're like wondering why I do the stuff that I do and why I'm doing it for so long, and it's just like, guys, wait until next week. Like it's like such an exciting thing. I know there's a couple people in chat that were actually there also at the 3.3 kind of update thing with me those years ago, but they know the same kind of deal, right? Having to kind of hold the secrets for the game that you enjoy playing so much it's torture, but at the same time it just makes you so excited for what's coming in the future.
Definitely.
It was definitely a thing that kind of opened my eyes a little bit when I was there. Being able to sit there and talk with the people actually programming and designing the game was really an eye-opening experience for me. It really caused me to kind of dig not only into the way that Frontier kind of does their games, but just game studios in general kind of stuff. So I know, like, when people do feedback on the forums and they're like, this thing's broken, fix it, that kind of feedback isn't as good as, say, someone that comes in and says, this is broken, here's the tests that I've done, this is what you can do to recreate a thing. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I did a bug report. Let me see if I can actually recreate it here. I don't know if this is actually still a thing. Oh, no, I recreated it. You see the bug that I just created? But that's the kind of thing, is like, I know the exact way to get that bug to trigger, right? I also know the only way to get rid of it, because we spent like 2-3 hours one day just trying to figure out what caused that bug. We found out, for example, it only happens to people that own a fleet carrier. It does not happen to people that do not own it. It only happens on that one status screen in the middle, and once you go past that one thing, it just doesn't delete the thing. So we kind of gone through and figured out what the stuff is necessary to recreate it, and then write that bug report with the video of recreating it, the ways that we found out to reset it to get rid of it. The only way that we found out to reset it is to go to the main menu and back in. But things like that, I mean, I've seen a lot of posts where something like that would happen, and then people's response would be, this is broken, fix it, and not, it's one of those...
Tell you how it goes.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those let us help you kind of things, because, like, the more information... Because that's the thing, too, is that you got to think about how many bug reports are made. If you have, like, one QA guy dealing with bug reports, and there's 90 bug reports given out a day, and it takes 5 minutes to deal with a bug report, that's like one person's entire workday, right?
Yeah, that's even before it's fixed.
Yeah,
that's just them going, this is how you do it.
Yeah, and the more information that they have, the easier it is for them to recreate, and then they can say, oh, that's a UI thing, and then they can send it to the team that does the UI, for example, rather than having to try to mess with things themselves, wasting their time when they could have been doing something else, right? That is kind of like one of the things with the beta is help us help them to allow them to, prioritize the fixes. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, Stephen has QA experience, so he'll know this better than I do.
Right.
But reproduction are so useful for bug reports. But the same goes with feedback generally in terms of actual player experience. If there's something that you like or dislike about fleet carriers in general, giving more details about how you found the experience, what you're actually looking for, and what changes you would suggest to help you get, or help us rather get to that stage, is so much better than, like you say, just saying fix it. Because the difficulty there is saying that you don't like something flat out. It's difficult because you have different players who want different things from the same content. So fix it to one person might mean X, but to someone else might mean Y.
Right.
So the extra sort of context as to what that means for your gameplay is super useful for us and the devs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And back in if I was in when I was back in my QA day, if I went up to a programmer and went, yeah, by the way, that feature you just added is broken. And there was this person I used to work with. Her name was Jill. She was a programmer. She was probably the most terrifying programmer you'll ever meet in your life. And you would not go to her unless you had like proper repro steps, or you would hear about it. Like if you didn't have proper reproduction steps, she was going to let you know. She was a fiery one. But yeah, that's the thing that's really important, is that the more information that you can give about the bug, how you got it, like the first steps going through it is just the best thing that we
Yeah.
can get, because then we don't have to go through the time that you put in to get it to that stage to figure out what was wrong. We can then feed back that in, but just to echo what Bruce said, that bugs aren't only the thing that we're looking for, and it's not the only way that you can do it. We don't want someone to go, I hate flick carriers, bye. It's like, well, why not? And even if it turns out it's something that they just don't want to use in game, that's still important. That's still really important, because when we go, right, good, well, we have some people that really find the usefulness and want to use them, but we also have people who don't want to use them. So how do we make sure that they can impact their gameplay in a positive way with people who don't want to use them? You know,
Yeah, I think one useful thing you can do is when you're writing a bit of feedback, just try and imagine how you want it to be received, right? So imagine your FDev or whoever reading the feedback. What do you want them to take away from it and change as a result? And that might help you find direction in what exactly you're trying to convey.
Right. I know, like, one of the other kind of things that people have been kind of worried about with the fleet carriers is, like, when it comes to like the commodity trading kind of stuff, um, it I don't think people are yet figured out how commodities are going to be able to pay for stuff or to make money or things like that. So it's almost like the feedback from that kind of stuff, having people like give examples of this like Inara or something like that, or the Elite Dangerous database. This is what is recorded on materials being transferred around, and try to give data like that of showing what's happening in the main game, and then giving scenarios on that kind of thing to try to give suggestions on how that kind of stuff will work and make the carrier money and stuff like that, right?
yeah, exactly. The more way of people spreading their knowledge and their uses through things is just really important, because that means that we get to see it, and we'll get to share it and pass it on, and make sure that more people know about it.
Right, right. Now, I think with that, we are kind of getting towards the end of the hour that I have with you guys. Is there anything else that you guys want to add? Because we do have a few people in stream right now.
Yes,
Well, for me, sorry, you go ahead.
No, and you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, for me, it's firstly a big thank you to yourself and everyone who's trying out fleet carriers and giving us feedback on this stuff. It's really your involvement that's going to help us shape and reach the point that we want to reach with them. There are some big changes already coming, and you'll hear about those later. So if you keep the feedback coming throughout this and the next beta, I'm confident that they'll be in a position that we're all very happy with by the end.
Yeah, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, Bruce. Try to let you go first. He'll say it better. Yeah, exactly. We're so grateful for everybody's contribution. And remember, this is not the last beta. We do have beta 2 coming up, and we'll be announcing those details along with any changes and fixes. And again, remember, I know there's a big kind of concern in the community right now with with us paying attention. We are constantly watching. That sounds really creepy, but you know what I mean. We're constantly monitoring, and we are feeding that back, and you are being heard. So even if you feel that there's been some time between announcements or anything or discussions about it, we are having internal discussions about them. We are listening to you, and we do appreciate everything that you are doing.
Okay, and so with that, I have one more question for you guys. Either of you all can answer this. Where is Raxla?
Check the codex.
Redacted.
All right, time for us to go. I think we've got.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yep.
Oh, I've got a meeting at 5, don't you, Bruce? We've got a meeting.
Yeah, same meeting. So yeah, we'll have to sign out.
Okay, so with that,
Yeah.
guys, again, thank you all very, very much for coming and hanging out. For those in the stream, I'm going to go on a quick 5-minute break. I'll be back in a little bit, but yeah, we'll continue some more Elite after this break. So be right back, guys.